Hello everyone, for whatever reason I decided to do another tutorial, this time about how to import helmets into the game. So here I already have a beautiful model of a luscious clown hair. I didn't want you to sit through me copying a sphere 30 times, so here it is. It's not that hard to make, plus there's not really much to mention. Only thing to mention is how to get this base model, after which you can model it to sort of have an idea how it look on the character. You can get these from WoW Model Viewer. You can make a character and click File Export. It's not difficult. Then on top of it you can model. However, that's far from what you will need to get it to work in the game. So first of all, you will need to set up the texture. So here I just have a base color. We need an actual proper image texture for this. We will create a new one. This is important. A lot of problems was caused to me by this, but the width and the height must all be values of exponents of 2. So 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and so on. Let's just set it to 32 and 32. And name doesn't matter. We'll save it as our own thing later. We'll click OK. Then to edit it, we can go into Texture Paint. So here we have currently black model. I could have just selected red, but here you can paint over it. Since the UVs overlap here, all the painting will be done on all the spheres. However, we want it to just be red. So here we will select red. Bit darker maybe. A little lighter maybe. Maybe even a little lighter. And here we have a beautiful clown hair. So now how do we get this into the game? So we will save the image. So now what we will do is we will delete our character model. Let's just save a file. And I will import a hat model which already exists in the game, or which I have already created in this case. So I made this cowboy hat some time ago. So let's import it, and as you can see, it's much lower. It's at the 0, 0. So when the hat loads in the game, it will load at the 0, 0, from the 0, 0. So the head will be below it. So that's where approximately we will move it. It might still require some guess and checking. It probably will. But we will sort of try to approximately put it where the head would be. Probably good enough. We'll try. And so now we can select the cowboy hat, which I made previously. Select all the vertices. But you don't have to have one already made by yourself. Again, you could import one from the game, which is probably what I should have shown. But hopefully it's still understandable enough. Oh yeah, right, okay. So let's join our new hat into our old hat, which will give us all of its properties. That's just an easier way of doing it, as well as its material. So we'll delete our old material, and so now it will be affected by the DBC file. Through the DBC file, we'll be able to put our texture onto this file, onto this hat or hair, whatever. So now we have to export it. Exporting hats is a little different than exporting other sorts of files. Okay, so now here we are in the File Explorer, where we have our clown hair exported to. So as you can see, here we have a prefix added to the end, capital H, lowercase u for human, and then M for male. So if we were to do female, we'd have HUF. However, as of a demonstration, I'll just do the human male model because that's the test character I usually use, so it's just easier that way. If you were to make it for the other races and genders, you'd have to play around with the model a bit, stretch it in different ways, maybe remodel it a bit to fit each individual race. So now we have that, and we have a skin to go along with it. These are some ones I have made previously. And now the texture, which we made, which is just plain red, a plain red square, pretty boring. But for our purposes here, that's fine. We will open it with, choose another app, and we'll just open it as BLP converter to convert it to a BLP. You should probably know how to do that if you've been modding WoW for a while, but if you don't, I'll link the tool somewhere. Descriptions don't work anymore, you can't put links in them, but I'll try to put a link to the tool in the description. Unless there's some problems with model changing, I'm not sure. We'll see. But the texture is now converted to BLP. So yeah, now we have 2 files needed for the model as well as the texture. So now let's talk about the path. This is important where it's located. For most things in WoW modding, it is very important which path you put it into. So let's start from where our patch is. So this is my patch, patch Y. In the root of the patch, you will need an item folder in which you will have object components, which are objects which need a model, such as shoulder pads, hats, weapons, that sort of stuff. And then there's also texture components. That's stuff such as the vests or pants, which are textures only that just get applied to the character model. So let's go into object components. So here we have head, which is the head models, since that uses models. It's in item, object components, head. So make sure to save the stuff here. The capitalization doesn't matter. On the other hand, I just put it as big because that's what it extracted from the MPQ editor. But here we have our clown hair and the clown texture. So that should be it. Now we can go on to using the DBC files to create the display ID. Okay, so the next step is to put the helmet we just created into the DBC. So the DBC we're using is item display info.dbc. So as you can see, I already have some stuff created down here. Usually you'll probably have it up to here approximately. So let's copy another helmet I created. The icon we can leave the same. That doesn't really matter for our current purposes. It's not that hard to change. Let's change it to clownhair.mdx. We do not put the prefix here because the game, when loading the helmet, will look at which character you are using, and it will then pull the required item based on the prefix. So now let's change the texture to our texture, and that should be about it. Let's save it and close it. Okay, so now we need to add an item with our new display ID into the database. So database editing is its own whole thing, so I won't go too in depth into here. But what we'll need is the item template, database, or table. Here I'm using Azeroth Core, but it's pretty much the same for Trinity Core, which I usually use, except for on this computer. But here we'll go into item template, and we will create a new item. In this case, I will duplicate this one. Duplicate without keys, and we will need a unique entry. Here I'm just incrementing by 1. And so class, subclass, that is all pretty confusing. There's like a long table of what each one means, but basically subclass 4 should be like wearable items, and then subclass 1 is helmets, and then display or inventory type is where it is equipped. But for helmet purposes, it's class 4, subclass 1, inventory type 1. Those are the only really confusing parts of this. Everything else in the item template should be pretty easy to figure out. So the name, here we will change it to clown hair, because that's what we're importing. And we will change display ID to the one we put into the DBC. So 68755 in my case. And that should be everything you need to change for this to test out the imported model. Okay, and we're now in game. So in order to add our item, we will need to type .add and then the ID of what we just created. Oh, that's wrong. But I already added it to myself. It's here, so I won't need to do that. But now you might be asking why it is a question mark. Well, that is because in order for the icon to work properly and for right-click equipping to work, you will need to also add it to the item.dbc. That's pretty unnecessary for just testing a model. That's if you want to actually like make the item usable is what you'll use that for. So how do you equip it if you can't right click it? Well, you can just drag it on. Not big of a problem. So as you can see, texture works, model looks as it should, but something's a little off. It seems to be a little bit shifted in one of the planes to be covering the face, and the nose isn't there. So we'll need to just slightly adjust it in Blender, but otherwise it looks good. So let's do that, and I'll show you how the end result looks. Yeah, so now after a little bit of guess and checking, back in the game, we can see it all looks fine. It sits properly on the character. It looks absolutely beautiful. If we run around, it stays on the character. I don't know what you would need to break for it not to stay on the character. I've personally never seen that problem before. So that's about it. We have now a beautiful, amazing wig of clown hair that we can run around in World of Warcraft. So if you have any questions, of course ask in the comments. I would be very happy to answer them. And another pretty important thing that I forgot to mention is the geoset viz parameter in the item display info.dbc. So as you can see, in this hat we have our hair enabled, so it clips through the hat. Here it's not that bad, and it kind of even looks better maybe. But if you really didn't want that to happen, you could use the geoset viz parameter to turn that off. So I'll show you that now. Okay, so here we are in WDBX editor. We have our item display info.dbc open. Here's our cowboy hat. If we now go here to helmet geoset viz _1, it's set to 0. However, as you can see on these ones, it is set to 248. I'm not sure what other numbers could possibly mean, but 0 and 248 work, so just trust the process or something. Yeah. So let's try doing 248, and now we save it, and we close it. And now, going back in game, as you can see, the geoset of the hair is no longer visible. So here we can't see it, it's just the texture on the head, and also the clipping issue is gone. So if that really is a problem for you, you could always use that method to get rid of it. And so that's about it now.